difference between me and you, me and you, me and you, me and you.
All right, guys, welcome back to episode 5 of the Differences Black and White podcast. Thank you for joining us. We have a special guest, Johnny Hood, today. Welcome, Johnny. Welcome. I would have offered you another mug, but you know, if you've seen the last episode, you know what happened.
I'm quite fine with the plastic white cup.
You know, we got to get you off probation first.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
You got to have a probationary period before we give you a mug.
So today, unfortunately, the conversation is going to center around the Buffalo shooting. Another one. I mean, that's all I can really say about it. It's just another one. It's tragic. I mean, we can't control what's going on. It's a somber moment, but there needs to be conversation. How can we move forward? How can we address this? How can we, as white members and black members of the community, how do we come together? Because obviously, this was an estranged shooter. He was by himself, clearly had an agenda. But let's talk about why he kind of got that way and what we can do about it in the future in addressing the white and black relationship, because there's definitely a stain. There's a lot of stain right now.
No, for sure. But before we get into that, just kind of want to get to know a little bit about.
Yeah, let's get to know Johnny. Sorry about that. Yeah, Johnny, introduce yourself, my friend.
Howdy, folks. I am Johnny. I do say howdy a lot, so bear with it, I guess.
A New Yorker saying howdy? That's weird.
Yeah, very weird. I suppose I'm cultured to a lot of degrees. I suppose a little background on myself. I am an artist and musician. If you probably thought this dude looks like Prince, yeah.
He shreds. I got to tell you, he shreds that guitar, and every time he plays, it's amazing.
Why, thank you, Chris.
It's a little Jimi Hendrix. It's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, that right there is what I aim to do as a musician and artist, is to move people. A little about me before I get too into myself. I am a military veteran. I know I look young and all that, but yeah, I'm certainly in my mid-30s, and yeah, that's about it. I'm also from New York City, and particularly New York State, where the event happened.
So wait, where exactly in New York?
Bronx, New York City.
The Bronx, nice. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
How was that growing up?
I would have to say it was a very, very interesting experience, because I went there at, I'd say, like 7 or 8 years old, and I left at 18 or 19. So it was pretty much a decade in my life that prepared me for what the remainder of my life would be, honestly.
So what's the demographics there?
Primarily black and Hispanic, a lot of Caribbean Hispanics, but you also have a melting pot as well. You have your little pockets of Asian. You certainly still have a little Italy in the Bronx, and certain areas in the Bronx that are, let's call it, immigrant European regions and sorts, and just like a good reflection of what New York City actually is, a melting pot.
Absolutely melting pot,
So
for sure.
did you face any racism growing up?
That laugh makes me think, oh yeah, I got stories.
I suppose I would say I have plenty of stories. Most of the racism, I would say, was never really outright or outburst. It was very subtle.
It's like most racism and prejudice are very subtle.
Yeah, especially in cities. I mean, living in the Bronx, I would have to say it's 3 or 4 miles outside of like what you would call like Midtown Manhattan, maybe more than that at this point, in some degrees, depending on where you are. But it's essentially two different worlds. And as much as New York City for me is a home to a lot of extents, I felt like even Manhattan was very, very foreign territory.
Gotcha.
The Bronx now is kind of where everybody's kind of navigating to. There's a Whole Foods in the Bronx now. Like there's all these. I don't want to say it's been being whitewashed, but it's different than it's different than what it used to be, for sure, right?
Yeah, I noticed that when I went back as an adult, there were a lot of things that I thought I would never really find or experience. I mean, to bring it close to home with music, I mean, I took vocal lessons from a white guy living in the Bronx, and in an area I thought I would never see a white guy live. Like, that was more or less when I knew that things were hopefully changing for the better in the Bronx. you certainly lie hopeful with the ideas of gentrification. It's certainly not always pretty. In fact, I don't think I've ever really seen it be pretty, but there are little pretty pockets in which you get people really, really getting to know one another.
Yeah. It's kind of like what Inglewood is turning into is with the new SoFi Stadium, and, gentrification, it definitely spreads around for sure. It changes neighborhoods, definitely.
So you said you served in the military. How long did you serve?
I did 5 years active, 3 years inactive.
Oh, wow.
And in those 3 years, I didn't really have to do much of anything except just answer some phone calls and update some information and records.
What branch were you in?
United States Marines.
Marines.
Oh, wow.
Hoorah.
Yeah.
So are you comfortable with guns?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I am absolutely comfortable with guns.
There is a reason we brought Johnny here.
I certainly have liberal-esque attitudes, if you will, towards guns, but I'm certainly not afraid to be around them, and I certainly am liberal in the sense that I feel that anybody who's anybody, knowing their environment and of smart mind, can exercise their Second Amendment rights.
Do you think at any point there's like too many guns to have? Or
Like individually as a person to have a gun? Yeah.
On a case-by-case basis, I mean, the short answer is yes, but on a case-by-case basis, I mean, you can live in different regions, and that's one of the things that essentially constitutes like gun laws and different gun cultures and things of that nature, is that we have different regions in this vast land. We have inner cities. We have areas that are very, very spaced out, where local law, in these spaced out areas, local law enforcement isn't going to get to you right away before you can, stop somebody from harming you with a separate weapon, or, there are times that you certainly have to take matters into your own hand.
I never thought of it like that.
Yeah. The beauty of the country is that we are so, one, diverse, but we're so spread out and so different everywhere we are. So, like, you really can't have, like, one federal law that
not at all
can really take care of everybody. Because in California, it's like, for me personally, I born and raised in L.A. I don't feel like I need a gun. I've never had an interaction, knock on wood, that I feel like I needed it. But I have no problem with people owning guns. Like, I think guns they're fun to shoot. I think they're great protection.
Yeah, they're a good time.
But personally, just don't feel like I need it. Actually, during the George Floyd protests, it kind of became a thing. Like, maybe it is a good idea just to have one, and not for protect myself against black people with what was going on. Because that's not what I'm saying. It was more just like,
what are you saying?
Well, that I'm racist as fuck. No, what I'm saying is maybe it is a good idea to have something to protect myself from anything that does happen.
But why would the George Floyd prompt you to think that you should have a gun or may need a gun?
So I live in Santa Monica, right? And so there was a heavy presence in Santa Monica. And so I did run into, like 3 blocks away from my house, a group of young men who were robbing a gold in a pawn shop, basically. Okay. And so we had this conversation. We never actually posted that conversation, but we had this conversation where there was this wanting to do something about it, but I'm not a police officer. I'm not trying to protect somebody else's business. That's not my thing. I'm going to go home and protect my family. So maybe having something for my house is a good idea.
No. You're not finna do that. So why did you feel like you needed a gun? Because the kids was robbing a gold shop.
I don't feel like it's right. So me, and this is, I think, maybe it was what a lot of white people think during that time was, I don't agree. I'm a protector of the society, right? So I believe there's a rule of law. I believe that there's a right and a wrong. And in the heat of the moment, I thought, oh, I want to do something. I want to stop them. Like, you guys are acting ridiculous, and I want to do something about it. So you want
to be a Kevin?
No, I want to say Kevin, but who was the kid? What was that kid's name who actually did do something?
What is?
Do you remember his name?
The young,
Rittenhouse.
Rittenhouse.
Kyle Rittenhouse. It was a Kyle.
Yeah, Kyle.
So you could have used Kyle. Honestly, I did think about that. I really did honestly think that could have been me in that situation. If I had a gun with me, I might have actually tried to do something, and that would have been my exact situation.
But why though?
Like, but why? Well,
because do you know what a gun is for though?
A gun is being able to use something that is not just my hands. It puts me in a place of power. A gun is an elevated position of power, and it's used that way. It's like you pull a gun on somebody and they don't have a gun, they will then surrender most of the time because they don't want to get shot, right? So that's a position of power.
But do you know what a gun is for, though?
Well, no, explain it to me then.
So it's not to protect property, it's to protect life. Putting yourself in danger to protect property.
Yeah.
And then say they did come and try to attack you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Then you kill somebody.
Yeah.
Not because they initiated on you, you initiated on them.
Right.
By not minding your business.
Right.
And then somebody ended up dead.
We have to circle back on this because that's exactly where I ended up being in my thought process. In the heat of the moment, yes, that's exactly my thinking, right? But when I actually talked about it with other people that were mixed communities, were the black community and the white community, they kind of brought me down to earth where it's like, why? And then even you, and when I mentioned it before, when we talked about it, it's like, again, why would you need to do that? Because it's not my place to do that.
So we need
Protecting
to
myself.
figure out like where's the core
Yeah.
that white people feel that they need to save the world. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah.
Because if I seen that,
Yeah.
you know, I'm like, damn, and I'm gonna keep it pushing. If I was to do anything,
You keep moving on, is what you're saying.
you know, like if
Yeah.
I felt that, you know, like I needed to save the world, I'll call the police. But I'm not
Yeah.
going to do that. But, you
Right.
know, if
Yeah.
I needed to do anything, they're not trying to hurt my family or me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So why?
You reserve it until you are
and-
being under attack. or-
Insurance is going to cover all of that.
So we do need to address it. We need that's what a lot of white people do have a problem with people that they're not comfortable with, right? And this will get into a conversation we'll have later.
But why are white people so entitled? I don't like.
I can probably answer a part of that, having
Go for
served
it.
in the military. So I noticed going into the Marines that, and let's call it Marines from, let's say, rural backgrounds or less melting pot of backgrounds versus Marines coming from, say, inner cities or even just suburban areas. The attitude between Marines who came from less populated regions was more or less that they have to protect and defend, and it also comes from the programming that a lot of minds receive from a very young age, in which they see the commercials to join the army, join the military. Their daddy was a Marine, their daddy was somebody in the Air Force or the Navy. They have to. It's almost like culturally instinctive, I would call it, that it does exist. And I'm not saying it exists everywhere, but there's a large enough portion in the United States where this exists.
To extend it, just so it's not just about the George Floyd protests and the way that they went. It's also just like people feeling like, oh, is this your apartment? Can you show me your keys? So actually, Major had that happen to her. Our producer had that happen to her multiple times, where it's like, do you actually belong here? Like, is this your place? We were always kind of in other people's business.
And why? Why is that?
Maybe because we are looking out for the society. I don't think it's necessarily that it's specific to minorities, because it's more than just black people. It's Hispanics, it's Latinos, it's everything, right? I don't really have an answer for that, but it is. I don't know if it's ingrained like that we are entitled to everything. I don't know if it's that.
You have white friends, right?
No, I have no white friends. Yes, I have white friends.
Okay, so like, what do you guys talk about? You know what I'm saying? Like, do you guys talk about your entitlement? You know, like, what do you guys talk about?
The crowd that's progressive, I think, yeah, like we acknowledge that we have, white privilege or, that kind of stuff, that range. I think we just ignore it. Most of the time we ignore it. We don't really talk about it. That's the truth. Is like there's no real honest discussion about, okay, how are we treating minorities as a group?
So did anyone agree with you? Any of your white friends agree with you?
No, not directly that I remember, but I know for sure that there would be people like, yeah, you should have done something. I got on a Discord earlier today because of the last episode talking about that. There's a segment, I think, of minority populations that a lot of white people will look at and then assume that's all black people. And that category of people are the people that we would call ghetto, the classless people, the people that are not productive members of the society, if I can put that the nicest way possible without being, labeled a racist. And so they just group everybody in that category. It's like, that's just how black people are. That's black people, right? There are those people, white people who see people like that, right? And then there's people like me who are more progressive and understand like, no, this is not what or who black people are, or any minority really. This is not who they are. But the problem is I'm from LA, so I'm a mix. I'm in that melting pot. Like big urban cities, like we're in a melting pot. So it's like, no, I see black people. I have black friends. You get those people who are in the small towns who don't have the experience with you and I, or we're just normal people. Like, you like playing guitar. Like,
Right.
we play sports together. Like, that's normal.
We recently had a mass shooting in, what city was that out here?
San Bernardino? No, not San Bernardino. Which one are you talking about?
Right.
There was one in San Bernardino, I think.
Yeah, it
That
was,
was
but it was
yeah.
one right after the Buffalo, either the same day or the next day.
Oh, really? In Orange County. Oh, I didn't even know about that.
Yeah, it was in Orange County.
In Orange County.
And I would think that it's still part of Southern California and part of the melting pot.
Yeah.
So why are we having?
Why do we still have that?
Yeah.
That's what I want to know.
Granted, I don't think it was, black targeted. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But it still happened.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
And I think it was an Asian guy this time though.
Oh,
It
really?
wasn't a white guy.
Okay.
But also the Buffalo one though,
Yeah. Yeah.
that really broke my heart.
No, it honestly, it really pisses me off that we still have these issues, because with trying to figure out what can we do to stop it, that's the hardest thing. Like, I just don't know what, because like I don't know what to do or what to say to those things, because you have Dylan Roof, you have this guy, and I don't even want to give him credit. I don't want to say his name. Like, there's multiple scenarios where this has happened, and then you see how they get arrested, and it's so irritating, because they're calmly put in their cars. They're given Burger King. They're given all these things, and it's like, that's not how you guys are treated. How the black community is treated on the most basic levels. And so it's so frustrating. Can we isolate those people? Can we stop those people? Because he was going to shoot up his school. Like, this guy was on the radar. Mm-hmm. So why are they not addressed at the moment? I have no idea, and that's really frustrating. There's so many things I want to say about this whole episode to really focus on one aspect of it.
No, I think we need to go ahead and talk about it though. But
Oh no, 100%, 100%.
I just really feel, and I don't know how to say this politically correct,
Just say it bluntly, and we'll
but
figure it out.
we have to do something different.
Yeah.
We can't keep doing the same shit. We can't keep marching and protesting,
Right.
and doing that. Like,
Yeah.
and I don't want to ignite a riot or anything like that.
Yeah.
But like,
That's what honestly surprises me, is that there hasn't been a total flip of this, where it's just like white people are shot randomly. That's what blows my mind. It's like, how do you have the Martin Luther King and all these things where it's like the peaceful protest, the George Floyd, mostly peaceful protest. Obviously some anomalies, but mostly peaceful. Like, how are you guys keeping your shit together?
No,
I don't get it.
I think we should fight back. You know what I'm saying?
But who do you fight?
At this point,
Yeah.
everybody is an enemy.
Yeah, and that's my biggest fear.
Like, I don't know how to be politically correct with this.
Yeah.
But everybody is an enemy.
Yeah.
And what's really, really sad about this whole thing is like, we're enemies to ourselves. The black community, we're enemies to ourselves. Like, we constantly killing each other.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So here we got the white people taking us out. Boom. We
Every
got the
angle.
police taking us out.
Every angle.
You know, we
Yeah.
taking ourselves out. Like, and like, we need to do something different. And what can we do differently?
Yeah.
And I think the only thing that we haven't done, well, we done in the past and they took it away from us, but we need to fight back. Like the Black Panthers.
The Black Panthers movement? Yeah.
We need to fight
Yeah.
back, bro.
Yeah.
Like Martin Luther King, he tried peacefully. You know what I'm saying? We did have some change, but I don't think we gonna get the dramatic change that we need until we start fighting back.
That was the
Police
beauty.
need to be scared
Yeah.
to, shoot and kill us.
Right.
They're too comfortable shooting and killing us. White people need to be scared to come up in a church, grocery store, wherever,
Yeah.
and just come shoot us casually.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's too comfortable.
Yeah.
You watch that video, dude was calm.
The scariest part of that video, or what I saw, was him like seeing a white guy and going, "Oh, sorry," and then moving on, just like, "Okay, you weren't my target." That was the worst part. But like I said, I don't know how you guys haven't lost your shit. I really don't. And there obviously are always going to be people who are like this is not the way to do it. But But what do you do? Like, this will keep happening constantly. And it scares me because, you know, I look very, I don't know, very pale, and I do wear the trucker's hat. So I had this conversation with you earlier. It's like, if you didn't know me, how would you think I felt about black people? Because I look like I dress and I behave mostly like a Midwestern white guy, even though I was born and raised in LA. So, like, if you look at me, any random black guy looks at me and goes, oh, that guy doesn't like black people.
I'd be like, Polly, want a cracker?
I was gonna say you can pass off as one of the you can pass off as one of the mercenaries, like in or like a contractor overseas.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Right. Thank you for that. I feel like kind of complicated. No, but I mean, that's the thing, is that I honestly walk down the street every time I interact with an unfamiliar minority group or mostly black people. It's like, okay, how do you feel about me? Like, how are you judging me? And it sucks, but it's like, I can't defend white people anymore. Like, there are a lot of people on your side, obviously. Like, there are, especially since that protest. That whole protest was this, enough of this shit. That's what that protest was. It's like,
protest?
George Floyd protest.
That's the same shit that we've been doing for years, bro.
There was the peaceful protest, but then there was also the people who were rioting and destroying stuff, and like, this is not going to fly anymore.
There was something a little different with the George Floyd.
There was, and there was a lot of police attacks, which I'm on the fence, obviously, with that too, where it's like, yes, the police in general should be respected, and they also should, but they need to earn the respect. They need to be community people, not let's shoot whoever and then hopefully we can just get out of this scot free.
And I also want to be clear. I know all police officers aren't assholes. You know.
No, I mean, can we talk about your family?
Yeah, and also, like, all police officers are murderers. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are people that's really here to help. I get that. Yeah. But at some point, it's like everybody's an enemy. We can't trust anybody today.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And that that is the saddest part of all this. That's the saddest part. I don't know. I can't give you a solution because I can't say, oh, just like everything will eventually get there. Because I watched this, I forget what the name of the documentary is, but I was on a plane. I watched this Obama documentary about how much bullshit and hate. And you can hate him, you can love him, whatever. But like, just from white people from that side of the political spectrum, like how much bullshit that he got. The fact that he like was able to do anything was amazing.
He didn't do anything.
No, well, there was some stuff that he did, but he got the amount of vitriol that he had to face, and the amount of like bullshit in Congress that he had to face. It's Congress. It's not him. Like, he can't just executive order everything, right? But anyway, that's kind of a little sidebar. I don't know what the solution is. Obviously, I don't want you to start shooting at white people. That's not what I want, because I don't want to be a victim. I don't want my kid to be a victim. Like, the only thing that I can do is create this podcast and try and get to and through white people. But unfortunately, we have, as of now, 500 something likes on Instagram and some subscribers. Like, most of them are black. 94%. I'll just make up a number. Most of them are black. We need white people to actually listen to this. Stop talking. Listen. That's why I want all my guests. Most of our guests are black, and I want to hear their side of the story. I want to hear their perspective. And white people need to shut the fuck up and listen.
That's a fact.
So what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah.
Well, in relation to the shooting, I mean, it's horrifying. It's at least one grandmother murdered. It's middle-aged black man, if I'm not mistaken, buying some sort birthday cake or pastry for like a loved one. It's a lot of stories like that, and it's it's coupled with the fact that there's this programming that exists in young white males that basically they have this I don't give a fuck attitude, like, I'm gonna get away with it one way or another. My daddy is this, my daddy is that, or my mommy is this. Like, it's, to put it bluntly in that way, it's part of the programming that needs to change with not particularly this generation, but perhaps future generations of white children.
Yeah. I mean,
but we're in 2022.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I can understand, like, some stuff before the internet, but, like, we know all black people are not the same, and all white people are not the same. You know what I'm saying? Right. Like, we know that there's good people in the world.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
every nationality and race.
Yeah,
you know what I'm
and
saying?
there's also shitty people in every
So
race.
like,
yeah,
we know this. You know,
Yeah.
I'm saying like enough of us have been exposed
Yes.
to other people to know. You know what I'm saying? So it's not, you know, the early 1900s, mid 1900s. Like we are educated enough, or we have the resources to figure out things.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
So at this point, we're purposefully not.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And here, so part of, I don't know if it was part of his manifesto or what, but this particular, the Buffalo shooter, was a heavy believer into the replacement theory, where white people are losing their control, losing their dominance in society, and being replaced by minorities. Obviously, at some point, because interracial marriage is acceptable and is a thing, less and less people are becoming the pure white or whatever it is. And so there's a replacement theory that everybody is afraid of, that white will lose that majority and the dominance.
So why shoot black people? Because it's not the black people that's taking over. You know who's really taking over? The Asians and Hispanics.
Yeah.
Really.
I wish I had an answer for you, Bre. I really
don't want
do.
them to go shoot Asian and
No,
Hispanics.
no.
But what I'm saying is, like, you know, it has to be more than.
Why are you guys specifically targeted?
Yes. It has to be more than,
Yeah.
you know, black people taking over, because it's not us. I really believe this country is going to be majority Hispanic probably in the next 50 to 100 years.
Yeah, they are definitely a growing population. That is for sure. I can't get in that mindset because I just don't understand. And here's the thing too, is that I wish I had the Midwestern experience, because obviously within LA I have the melting pot theory, right? So I can't even begin to think about what an all-white town thinks about. Like, I grew up in an all-white town, but I still had access to black friends. I still had access to the black community. And I didn't have this much experience. Again, why this podcast is enlightening for me and what I wanted to do. But I just can't get in that mindset of, like, why people are people. Like, yes, there are obnoxious people of all races. There are people that I don't agree with, that act in a different way. But I have no desire to do anything to them. It's like, okay, that's not my crowd. Cool. You guys do your thing. I'm not going to do that.
And that's a cultural thing at that point, because it's
Yeah.
like, if you don't grow up around it, how can you know and identify with it?
Right. Yeah. I will say the future of this podcast, and this will become more than a podcast, obviously, is that we are going to travel and we are going to go to those communities and try and explore those questions. There's definitely some future historically black university colleges that we're going to explore. And then we're going to go talk to some Midwestern white people, because like you said, this is getting to a point where I can't defend it. And then, like, I don't want to say, yeah, start killing white people, but how do you get the message across? How do you get people to stop?
But it's not really like go out and kill white people. I believe in defending ourselves. You know what I'm saying? We need to be able to defend ourselves against white people, defend ourselves against the police.
Right.
Like, you know,
Yeah.
if we were able to, you know, like back in the day with the Black Panthers, you know, they had people patrolling the streets, you know, grocery stores and stuff like that, making sure that the mothers, you know, get home safe and stuff like that. So if we had, you know, a militia group, or I don't even know if that's the politically correct term.
I think it is fine.
But, you know, in front of the stores, you know, a presence.
A presence, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We had a presence.
There is some of that. I have seen some of that, but it's not as dominant, obviously.
Like a security guard.
No, they can't do anything.
Like, I think we need a presence. We need when we get pulled over, we need to have somebody that the police know, like, damn, they go shoot me if I shoot them. You know what I'm saying? Like, we need that presence.
Well, I told you I wanted to set up the rent a white friend. Where you always carry a white friend around with you. Because that is the thing, is that the progressive white people are the ones who are really, like, filming everything and can get in the police officer's face, and we really don't. It's weird. We don't really face as much retaliation as you guys do. I think maybe, yes, I think the Black Panthers should come back. I think there should be some kind of like that. I think everybody who wants to be armed should be armed. I get the California, New York thing where they don't want people to have access to it, because again, I've been in situations driving in traffic, like I get pissed off and I'm like, oh, if I only had a gun, I would have, done something. But and then people have shot from their cars, and it's like, no, bad mistake. Or even the George Floyd story. If I had a gun, would have I made the stupid mistake in the moment, in the heat of the moment, been dumb about it, and now served the same consequence that Kyle had? So I'm glad that I didn't.
That, I don't know. To hear you say that really rubs me the wrong way.
It should rub you the wrong way, because it's a terrible thought, and I have owned it, and I will own it.
How about this?
It's a terrible thought.
I'll ask you this. Do you understand that with owning a gun comes an enormous responsibility? If
Absolutely.
You were to own a gun?
Absolutely. And that's where some people should not own guns. There are definitely a lot of people who should not.
If you don't know the 4 safety rules of owning a gun, you should not own a gun.
Yeah.
It's treat, never, keep. Let me see if I remember this correctly. It said treat, never, keep. Treat every gun as if it were loaded.
Yep.
Treat, never point your weapon at anything you do not intend to shoot.
Yep.
Keep your weapon on safe until you're ready to fire. Keep your finger off the trigger unless you're ready to fire. I haven't recited that in 7 years, and I still know.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Just because like of the gun training that I got from the military and understanding that it's an enormous responsibility. A gun is designed to take a life, or at least stop and prevent that life from hurting other lives.
Yes.
That's an enormous responsibility to bear on any soul. I don't care what anybody says.
Absolutely. And that's my point, is that people get hot-headed, they make mistakes, and they immediately regret it. And I immediately regret it, because I even posted this on social media and I got called out. And thank you for calling me out on it, because I was wrong. And I have no problem admitting that. I was 100% wrong. But a lot of white people feel that way. A lot of white people.
And that's crazy, because I own a gun.
Yeah.
And I don't think about going to shoot nobody when I'm mad. You know what I'm saying? I probably want to punch somebody in their face, but killing somebody doesn't cross my mind. You know what I'm saying? Or if I was to see somebody damaging property, oh, well, damn. You know?
Sucks for them.
Sucks for them. You know what I'm saying? Insurance, they go get a nice lump of change from insurance. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It don't cross my mind.
Maybe you're just more level-headed.
So why are white people so angry?
Because we're getting wasted out here, man. We're losing out on everything. I mean, you take all of this is all facetious. Please don't take this as granted. All the athletes, all the NBA players, all the football players, they're all black except for Cooper Kupp. Love you, Cooper Kupp. No, I believe that honestly, that is a thing, though. That is a thing where you look at sports as a really great example, that there are very few white people in professional at the professional level. College level, yeah, sure, but professional level, it's pretty. I think I saw this was 70% black, right? So for NFL, and so NBA is much higher. So there is a fear, justified or not, there is a fear of we're not as cool, we're not as talented, we're not as athletic, naturally gifted, right? And so, and we did have all this power, and this is me just kind of spitballing here, right? We had all this power that we, especially coming from England, right? We've had all this power. We've dominated. We've been an empire. We've destroyed other cultures. We've stolen from other cultures, made it our own, or claimed it as our own. And now we're being called out on it, right? Now we're being called out on it. Now we're having to give back land, or we're having to acknowledge that, hey, slavery built this country, and black people have provided more inventions and progressed this country more than anybody else. You don't get if you don't get the black women's vote, you don't win the election. That's what it's come down to, right? So black people have moved this country, and I've recognized that. As a white person, a lot of white people will hate me for saying this, right? So it's difficult to acknowledge as a white person that, hey, we're not the best. We don't own everything. And we have to own up to that. We have to acknowledge that. We've been fucked up for so long. We need to accept that it's a part of who we are. I'm super patriotic, but I recognize our country could be so much better. We have so many problems. But then you get the people who, I don't want to call it all the Trump people, but the Trump people were America's the greatest country on earth. It can be, but it really isn't. Our mortality rate sucks. Our birth mortality rate sucks. as we talked about in the abortion episode last time. Like, there are so many things. We don't have guaranteed healthcare. We don't have guaranteed paid family leave, except for a few states like California. Like, there's so many things that other countries have actually progressed and done so well. Like, you don't hear black people being targeted in Canada or in England or.
I think it's just as bad, if I'm not mistaken.
Maybe I'm talking out of my ass on that one. I should look it up. But
I should look it up too. But I believe that the racism is just as.
Racism is universal, but I feel like in America maybe it's worse.
Our attitude towards it are certainly unhealthier than a lot of other countries in the on the planet, because I'll give it for the Caribbean lifestyle perspective. We like to use the phrase la negrita or el negrito a lot. Like, it's a term of endearment. However, it doesn't cross cultural boundaries to the extent that if you try to use that in the United States, an American black person is going to take kindly to it.
Yeah.
So
now that's interesting. Can I say negrita? Can I say like it's Spanish for a black person, right? Or black woman, negrita, like grito, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean that's. Is it Puerto Rico? Or I guess it's a lot of the Caribbean islands. There is still racism down there. There's a lot of racism in those areas too. So maybe you're right. It is
racism.
It's a universal thing.
Problems. There's all the whole smorgasbord.
Yeah, you could pass as mixed, but your family is just both your parents are Dominican.
Both of my parents are Dominican.
Both of your parents are Dominican. So would you ever play up your I'm whiter side, or have you ever played that up at all?
Let me be the first to admit that due to my programming, just from a young age, like I was. As a teenager, I wanted to look how I look now, only I wanted to, because I watched wrestling, WWF, I'd see the white boys jumping off the top rope, that wanted to be me.
Yeah.
With the rock culture growing up too, just being of the counterculture, like a lot of like my musical influence were these white kids who were just slamming guitars or or jumping stage diving. So like in that abstract, I get it and I have always identified with it, but it was only after like more or less growing up as an adult and looking back in my life and realizing that a lot of that stuff. Most of its stuff is influenced opinion. In this case, it became a part of who I am. However, I am conscious of the fact that programming did exist, and this is why I probably feel and think the way I do now.
Yeah. There was a video on CNN, which I don't know if it was manipulated, but there's these young kids who, and I posted on my story a little while ago, so if you follow the page, you might have seen it. But these young black kids, they had like a spectrum of colored kids, like white, the lighter skin, the black skin, and it's like, what skin color would you prefer? And they always pointed to the lighter skin color.
I've seen that. I've definitely seen media related to that, and that's
sad as fuck. I'm sorry, like to think that you're not comfortable in your skin.
I'll say this: whatever your skin tone was, like instinctively, there's a part of all of us, I guess, who are non-white, would pick just a little shade lighter. Like if you were very, 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 very dark, you would think of yourself as brown.
Yeah.
If you were brown, you would think of yourself as tan.
Yeah.
Tan, you would think of yourself as very light-skinned.
And then there's pale, like me. And let's circle back to this whole thing with the shooter. It's like, are black people not comfortable in their skin because they don't want to be seen as black, because they just see all of the bullshit that African Americans, black people have to deal with? Like, is that a thing? Is that something that a lot of black people are concerned about? They want to mix more in with the white community so they're not seen as different or as...
Not for me.
I could see how some people would definitely go off with that ideology as passing for not black or not Hispanic. And implicitly, it kind of plagues somebody dearly in my family. But again, to that greater extent, I can also identify with it because I lived with that, I guess, form of whitewashing, if you will.
Yeah, right.
Because, let's face it, up until 2000 and above, I wasn't growing up seeing many black role models. I'm really happy that we're getting to that point where
you are getting the black dolls, like we mentioned before in these previous episodes. Like you're getting the culture, or you're getting the representation in the media, where it's like, oh, that's me. Like a little boy or a little black girl can see that's me in this book, or that's me in the doll, or whatever it is. And to go back to, I think it was episode 1 that we actually shot when we first started this. You mentioned that black men are seen as intimidating, and I feel like that's part of this whole thing, that white people, the only way white people can assert their dominance is by, using their physical force, and usually that means with a gun, and ending black lives, and causing not hysteria, but causing
certainly contributing to it,
harm in the black community, right?
Well, so that's why I think we need to have more white people, and other than you.
Yeah, please.
We need more white people.
I would love to hear more perspective from other white people. So if you have a white friend, please tag them on this
and share
this. We need to hear their perspective, because obviously I have a very certain and narrow perspective. I know a lot of white people are afraid to talk about these issues, and these are difficult issues to talk about. I have no problem being raw and putting my feelings in what I think the white community is thinking, but I can't for the life of me actually do it, because I just don't understand where these militia groups are, these don't replace me groups are, the anti-Jewish people are. I just don't understand it. And so hopefully with future episodes and the future content we can create, we can kind of, I don't want to say infiltrate, we can get into these areas.
Do we got to say like fuck NRA? You know what I'm saying? Start saying like screw certain groups to get white people attention. Like, what do we have to do to get the white people attention?
Right. I mean, I know how to get the black people attention, but I'm not going to do it. But yeah, that's. Here's the one thing I just want to touch on, this NRA thing is Fernando Castillo? Is that his name? It's not Fernando. Fernando Castillo. Where the fuck were you at, NRA? This dude was in his car. He announced himself to the officer. Hey, I have a gun. I'm gonna, like, where were you at? You didn't show up. You didn't say, hey, gun rights for black people. And that's where you can clearly say that they're racist as fuck. They don't want black people having guns. They want white people having guns. All these pictures of the holiday cards of families, the whole family having a gun, white people having a gun, right? And then you get the black people holding guns with their families, thugs, criminals.
Yeah. We recently had the girl, I think she posed for her prom picture.
With a gun?
And she had a gun, and she lost her scholarship. And,
are you kidding me?
Yeah. Fuck. She lost her scholarship. I think she was
I didn't know about
suspended from school or couldn't graduate or something like that. And it had nothing to do with school. This was at home on her property.
Yeah.
Or, on the street or wherever. And, like, white people pose like that all the time.
All the fucking time. There are political...
And it's not against the law.
Congressmen who do that.
It's not against the law.
It's not. We set you up for failure in multiple ways. We've written this justice code system, and I'm not trying to like win the black vote. I don't need you guys to like, oh yeah, he's supporting Black Lives Matter and all that stuff. This is honest, just disappointment, like super disappointing in this country and in white people. It's like, why do you guys think this way? I don't know how to express it enough.
Well, you can only do so much. We really need the support or lack of support from other white people. We just need y'all to chime in. To
some degrees, both ends, whether it's a minimum amount on certain end and a maximum amount on a certain end, there's a certain level of responsibility that needs to be accepted. Like, individually, culturally, on so many different levels, because none of us are perfect, regardless of one's race is or background or anything.
There are great and shitty people in every race, for sure.
So ultimately, and I know this is more of like kind of like could be seen as like a kumbaya thing. Honestly, we all need to just at the very least acknowledge, if we can all acknowledge that we all need to get together and continue to have conversation. Yeah, that is at least a start. It's not going to solve everything. I mean, I personally believe if you want to tap into a major problem, you got to tap into people's pockets, and by that I mean people with money, and tap into the pockets to see real progressive change.
Right. Yeah.
But at the very minimum, just even having a conversation, no matter how stressed or how tense it may get, albeit certainly respect, people and try to live as much as possible. but starting and having a conversation and accepting at least some degree of responsibility
Yeah.
on both parts.
And so you said something that stuck out to me is tap into other people's pocket. Like, we try to buy black things and like it doesn't last, you know. I do believe to a certain extent, and again, you know, I'm not politically correct. This is my opinion, and you know, and it's a thought. We need to try something different. I really believe in going back to segregation in a certain way.
Would you say it's more for the safety of black people than it is anything else?
For our safety, for our the black economy, the mental health of black children, you know, like they need to see us in leaderships in our communities. You know what I'm saying?
Not a bad idea, because that's actually reflective of how, say, like other cultures actually do that sort of thing. Like you see, you know, you see a Dominican barrio in Washington Heights in New York City. You see Little Italy in the Bronx, where Italian Americans congregate. So that's certainly an idea worth investing time into.
Like I enjoy, you know, being around you and stuff like that. Like, but I just really think like, and I want my kids to be cultured.
Yeah.
But you know, like, what's more important, like their life or them being cultured? You know what I'm saying?
Right. I mean, I think every white person would like it to be both. I think we want to, progressive white person wants to be intermixed, and then we want to learn from each other. But I don't see it being a problem. Cultures do that. Like, they do have their own zones where they do integrate outside of those zones, but then they have their place that they can call their own. And if you want to get into history, like the Tulsa, the black stock market, like the Tulsa, where everything was black, black owned, black businesses, they flourished. Then of course Tulsa fucking got burned down. So I agree, you should have your own stuff, your own, like, support your own businesses and have your thing, for lack of a better word. I don't want you to remove yourself entirely from the community, because I like the interaction. I want the interaction. I think we need the interaction. And we're a country that, like us or hate us, we are intertwined, but I definitely think you should have your own thing. That it's not necessarily whites not apply kind of thing, or like black fountains only kind of thing, but correct. You should have your own thing. Every white person who's not me or not progressive is going to throw their arms up, but it's like, that would be good for you guys too. You know, you guys have your own thing, we have our own thing, and then we have our intermixing area or whatever it is.
I was gonna say, I'm sorry, that actually doesn't sound like a bad idea as part of like the reparations, like that's owed to black people in this country.
Yeah,
like, give them a region in this country that they can thrive.
As long as you thrive, because I don't want it to turn into what we did for the Native Americans, where the United States government gave them an area and then we kind of starved them out, really. And now they became drug addicts and alcoholics, and they lost their culture. So I don't want that to happen to the black culture. And I think a lot of the younger white community is so much more progressive than this older community. So I keep hoping and praying that this...
Are they, though? Because it's the young white people that's doing the mass shootings.
Yeah, I mean, this guy was 18, so yeah, you're right. I mean, I'm hoping it gets more progressive, where you get this older, even in Congress, all these 90-year-olds who are still senators. I'm hoping this older white crowd will die out eventually, and we can become this unifying thing. But until then, maybe you guys need your own.
I want to think of something else. You know, we can't keep marching.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we can't. Like,
I'd say we could continue to march in conjunction with new ideas.
So we do have many more women, black and white, but many more women in itself, and then many more minorities who are taking congressional seats and are taking Senate seats. So it's getting there. The only way that this actually ends is you chip away at all the racist parents, right? And you get through to those kids. That's the only way you can get. And then And unfortunately, it sucks that it takes so long. But then you take a little white racist and you convert them into a non-racist. And then you take this. And so then they raise their kids like, hey, this is not cool. Like, this is not how we do it.
But it's hidden so well today. It's hidden so well.
You think it's hidden, really?
Yeah.
Like, you mean like it's so like minute little like
it's hidden
little prejudices that
because they know how to interact with us now. At first, they didn't know how to interact. Now they know how to interact. So, you know.
So you think everybody's being fake?
Yeah.
You think everybody's being fake basically to your face.
Much
and-
easier than they were being fake like 20 years ago.
And I much rather you just be a racist
be
asshole.
your racist self.
Yeah, like I respect you way more.
Yeah.
Like you're racist, cool.
That's you.
You know, hey, you
Yeah.
know, I'll still speak to your ass. But we know how to play this game.
Let me ask you, because your military experience. So you were, this kind of goes back to what you're saying is like you want to separate a little bit and have your own thing, but in the military, you're bunked up with whoever the hell enlisted or whoever is an officer or whatever. So what was your experience in the military, being forced into these situations with those people who had the one-track mind or the limited experience with other cultures? How was that? He got stories.
I have several stories. I have one or two really, really extreme personalities, I would call it. Then you'd have a good mix of personalities who weren't necessarily, like they had implicit biases that obviously they weren't aware of, but most of them were benign. Some of them are little, you know, ruckus. It would cause a little ruckus, if you will.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of that, but there was also the end of the spectrum that I knew as far as like melting pot.
Yeah.
You know, blacks, Hispanics, Asians. I would say because I went into a very, very technical job description. I was avionics technician for the CH-53 helicopters.
Okay.
It's predominantly not a black and Hispanic job.
So a lot of white people in that job.
A lot of white people in this job. I only remember working with 3 other black folk and maybe like 3 or 5 other Hispanics, and everybody else in the shop of like 40 to 50 was white. So there was a lot. I could see it. I could see it in their eyes. There's a lot of cultural curiosity for those who were like benign in that way.
Yeah.
And I you know, certainly had no real problems with that. Then there was just like, you know, blatant ignorism. Some dude calling me a Mexican, like,
Dude, white people, please stop calling everybody Mexican. There's so many other countries that speak Spanish.
right.
It's like-
No, and the beautiful part was that within the Marines, like that was addressed and that was rectified really quickly.
Yeah.
Like the Marines, by the time I made it to the Marines, like they were better about that sort of thing.
Yeah. Because that's one thing that I want to bring back to what you're saying is that forced cohesion within the military, did it or did it not? Did it correct a lot of those people who like, oh no, you guys are actually kind of cool. Like I could see, like, okay, I can jive with you, I can do whatever. Or was it like they held on to their views?
I could tell you exactly where it's corrected. Overseas. Overseas, when you have to share a foxhole with somebody who is not of your background.
Yeah.
You will put all your differences aside.
Yeah.
And make sure that you're your brother's keeper. Whether you're black, white, Hispanic, Asian, makes no difference.
Yeah.
I know I'm not gonna say I was exactly in a foxhole, but I was certainly in combat situations in which you really look towards one another's and you read one another's eyes and see, let's do everything we can to make sure that none of us go down.
Yeah. That's the only rebuttal I have to what you're saying is really when you're forced, because we're not forced to interact. Right? Like Bre and I, obviously, we met several years ago, but like we were never forced. But it was like a love of football and a love of other things that we shared. So it's like, okay, we can interact, and then we grew this relationship, right? So I don't want to say we want to force each other to do anything, but it's almost like that would help us as well. So there's that separation where it's like, yes, I think black people should have their own things. And every other culture should have their own things without saying, no, you can't be a part of this, right? Like historical black colleges, I think is a great thing, But there are a lot of white people who do attend that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's great for both ends. But it's also like, should we force people to be together and then actually like learn from each other? Like, oh, okay, this is how it is. And it kind of it goes back to the intermixed schooling, where they would bus in kids to go to a different area, right? Where it's like, okay, you're going to force interaction. I feel like that helps. I mean, can you speak on anything like that where it's like that would help with your schooling? Because
I'm just away from that.
Yeah.
Now, like even for like the NFL.
Yeah.
I think we need a black league. We make white men too much money, and then Colin Kaepernick can't get a job.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Or
like,
you can't get a black coach.
Or a black coach, exactly.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, like, we're the talent, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Let's start our own league.
Yeah.
And make our own money.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? That's where I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Because it's just so frustrating. You know what I'm saying? It's no way that man should be jobless still.
Yes and no. But, I mean, regardless, you know what I'm saying.
His
You know what I'm
age
saying.
now,
Yeah.
but back when he was still...
When he had talent. I mean, he went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And he went to an NFC championship. I mean, like, yes. Like, I mean, I agree with you. It 100% went political because it was anti-white. It was anti-police. It was it's like, hey, hello, we're black people and we're getting killed over here. Like, Black Lives Matter. Can you just acknowledge this situation? And it's like, all right, you're out. Bye. Like, that's...
And then, like, black people, we couldn't stand together and not play football.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah.
And if we, like... That's fine. We couldn't do that because we need to make money, but then we need to start our own league. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know if you ever seen the videos of the NBA players when it was mostly white players. It's so bad. It's so bad. It's so bad. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's so bad. I mean, granted, white people have gotten a lot better at things, but honestly, because of black people. Like, and I have no problem with that.
We got to stop making money for other people.
For other people.
Like, we know better now. So why are we still doing it?
Use the power of the purse.
Yeah. Like, we know better.
To get change.
We know who they coming to see. You know what I'm saying? They coming to see LeBron James, Ja Morant, what's his name? KD. And,
yeah.
Yeah.
They are coming to see Luka, but Luka's,
Yeah, but no.
European. But most of the talent is black. I mean, and we have to accept that. And I think it goes back to the replacement theory, where white people are just afraid of losing their place. And I don't think it being a problem having black leaders and having black anything. I don't have a problem with that. So I don't think we're gonna appeal to the white racist crowd. Unfortunately, I would love to get your opinions on it, but I just. To somehow get in front of their faces and be like, please respond to this. Maybe we should pay you. I don't know. If you want to come on the show and you're a racist, I will pay you money to contribute your opinion on the show. How about that? I'll pay you money.
I'm down for that.
Yeah, I want to get behind this.
Yeah.
I cannot fathom this. I cannot put any words to it. So, all right, I'll put my money on the line. So people who are of white descent, come at my purse. Let's go.
Come at
All right. Well, this is definitely a conversation that needs to continue. So hit us up on social media so we can continue that conversation. I want to thank Johnny for coming out and being part of this conversation. DJ Bre, myself, and everybody. We'll see you on the next one. All right. Have a good one.